Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am AttiDude back in another video, and in today's video we're gonna be learning about enums or enums in C Sharp. Enums are very handy to use tool that is provided by C Sharp. So if you haven't liked or subscribed my channel yet, do it now. I'll provide more content like this. So without any further ado, let's get started understanding enums or enums. So enums are basically classes that contain unchangeable, only readable value. And they are very special classes, and for most part they are not treated as classes. Let's see what I'm talking about. I'm gonna delete everything so that our program class is completely empty, and then we're gonna define an enum. So the enum is defined by a keyword called enum. First of all will be the access modifier, then the type of the class or the reference, which in our case is gonna be enum, and I'm gonna name this player state. You can see that it is a bit dully yellowish kind of color that it is printed in. Don't worry about that. And here we can define states for that. Like we can have attack, we can have idle, we can have walk, we can have run, we can have melee, etc. We're just gonna only have attack, walk, and run. And of course comment this so that we know that it is present and what it is. Okay, when we have this, we can use this to create a variable like player state. I'm gonna name this state. Okay, we can have our main function public static void main string array argument, just like that. And this is our main function. Okay, and here we're gonna create a program variable because we know that we cannot access anything that is non-static in the static function, in a static function. I'm gonna name this program equals to new program. However, we will still be able to access all of the private variables like this. But state equals to, it's so simple. We have something like text boxes or something like text which is read only. We can have player state dot, or we can have the different states like attack, walk, run, like that. So I'm gonna name this walk maybe. So it's this simple. For example, if we write idle, most of the time the player is gonna be idle, or attack state, by default it will be idle. And then we can just go ahead and print this out. Console.writeLine program.state. Hit this run button, to run, compile and run. Okay, we got idle, and basically that was our state, what the player is currently in state. That means currently the player is in idle state. We can even modify this to have that to be like attack state. We can write string, maybe char. I'm gonna name this w equals to console dot read line, and we can go ahead and write char dot parse, and we're gonna feed in this. We need a string, which is this one, and then it says converts the value to its equivalent Unicode character. Don't worry about that. We can write having a simple switch function and pass in our w, and we can have case w. We can write case to be w. If the case is w, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna write program that state. Actually, this should not be w. I'm naming this input. I'm gonna name that, and even right here, we're gonna write program that state equals to player state dot walk. For now, let's just set that to be walk, and then we can even break it. We can have case. For example, we have space. No, space cannot be done like that. We're gonna have a F button, small f. Then we can write program dot state equals to player state dot attack, and here we can have a break, and if everything is default, that means none of that matches, then we can write program dot state equals to player attack dot idle, and then even break this. Okay, we can have idle, then we can set that to be w, but now we don't know what that value for that is, so I'm gonna actually delete this. Now let it be there, or we can just go ahead and copy the line down at the bottom and even have a console. I don't want comparison, I want console dot read line, and just hit the run button. We have idle w, and it's walk, and press F. It's done. Let's try it again. Idle. We can have F attack. Yes, it's this simple. If we have A, it's still idle because we've set like it's default. That means if none of that matches, we're gonna set the player state to be actually the idle one. And if you still don't understand enums, it's these simple. Enums are basically states from which a variable or such kind of another field or property can access that. Like, we have a state. Like, if the player is currently in idle state, that means he's not moving. Okay, then we need him to be attacking. Then we can even use booleans that if he has attacked, we can use that. But for example, if we have 100 different actions for one player, like run, scope, then have melee attack, go prone, crouch, then you're gonna have hundreds of booleans, which will take a lot of load and is not at all optimized for your program. So we use enums, or you call enums. We use enums to define which state the player is currently in. If you have 100 different booleans or 1,000 different booleans, and if you want to access that thing from somewhere else, it will still be different, because we need to identify, check whether which boolean combines that, which forms, like we need to check for each and every boolean that, hey, if this one boolean is true, then we're gonna run. Hey, if the walk boolean is true, then we're gonna walk. But no, it's not at all optimized, because it takes a lot of processing power. Even for the programmer, it is not at all efficient, because the whole thing is a lot confusing, and enums help us to make a lot cleaner code, like as we have right here. And we can access any state of the enum by writing player state, or the name of that enum, dot. That means we're going inside of that. We're seeing all of its functions, classes, and we're accessing all the members of this. And we can access the idle one. And these things are read only. That means we cannot write them. We cannot write player state dot idle equals to something new player state dot idle. We cannot have them, because we know that they are read only. We can define a player state variable, but we cannot define its members, because they are already read only. So we can even know that the player state is like a switch. It is just at one place. Like if you turn it on, it will by default off will be turned to false, and on will be set to true. And if we set that to be off, then the off will be set to true and on will be set to false. It's actually this simple, that they are basically states which define a state. We can use that state in any script, preferably C#, because we are making application games in C#, so we use that. You can even use this to know which kind of operation do you want to perform on given numbers while making a calculator program in C#. So it's this simple, and you can even have you can even check that out for checking for like which state that currently is in. You can write if we have the player state dot idle, then you can write player first for program dot state double equals to player state dot idle. Then you can have just a return one. You can just do that like that, but we don't want to do anything. And with the help of this if statement, we can even check that out. And I heavily recommend not to use if with enums or enums, because you're gonna have more than one or maybe 2, 3 values inside of the enum. So you're gonna have a nightmare writing off the if statements, copying and pasting. But it's not alone an efficient way for the programmer. But if you have just like 1 or 2, there will not be 1 because that does not define the state. If there are 2 or 3, then you can of course use that. But if you have more than 2, 3, I heavily recommend not to use if statements. Instead, you can use the switch statement, right? Program.state. And we can have a case playerstate.idle. You can see that we have a little bit this one, player state, or, but don't worry about that, we're not gonna use that. If a program.state is player state.idle, then we're just gonna return, and we don't even need break because we have that return, which returns from this function. Currently we just have 3 of these, but later when you have a lot of these, when you're making especially a game or an application, then you're gonna have not just 2 or 3, you're gonna have a lot of these. Let us just run. And if we have any other one key, it just returns. It didn't even print out anything because we have written return, which means it will break this whole function. It will just return out of this function from right away. And you can even have to write break. We don't actually need break. And in that case, playerstate.attack. We can have a console.writeLine and say cap and we can of course have a break one. And if we have case player state.walk, console.writeLine walking, and then of course a break statement just like that. And if we hit run, if we have it's just gonna return. If we have W, it's gonna say walking, and we have this walk one. Don't worry about that, we can just go ahead and delete this line, and even we can have this converted to be a break one, and console dot Right line idle. If we have like F, it says kibble. So that's it for checking enums using a switch statement. And with the help of this, you can even check them, you can even set them, and you basically know how this whole thing works. So, if you have any doubts, you can of course ask me in the comments below. And in this video, I would like to expect some examples of the use of enums, and you can write those examples down in the comments below. I'd be very happy to see those. So that's it for today, guys. We'll meet in a later video. If you haven't liked or subscribed my channel yet, do it now. For more content like this. I am AttiDude signing out.